Welcome back. I will now be reviewing all of Sunday's and Monday's action of Week 9 of the NFL. Starting in Atlanta with the Chargers taking on the Falcons. I did predict that Atlanta would get the victory, but unfortunately it was not meant to be. Final score 20-17. The Chargers are now 5-3, while the Falcons fell to 4-5. They're still technically tied for first in their division, so not all hope is lost, but obviously it's a pretty tough loss, especially after got hot and got back to 500. The next matchup has the Miami Dolphins taking on the Chicago Bears. I did predict that Miami would get the victory. It was close, a lot closer than I thought, and Justin Fields ran like a madman for over 150 yards, I do believe it was, from scrimmage. Just unbelievable. It's like almost like Colin Kaepernick-esque, where he has the arm strength and he has the mobility. I guess you could say Patrick Mahomes as a dual threat as well. But yeah, he's a young kid. But unfortunately, he was not able to get the job done. The Bears fall to 3-6, while the Dolphins improve to 6-3. The Carolina Panthers went into Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. I did predict that Cincy would get the victory, and it was a blowout at halftime. I believe it was like 35-0, if I'm not mistaken. Final score 42-21. They doubled up the Panthers. The Panthers have been struggling to say the least. They have now fallen to 2-7, while the Bengals are above 500 with a 5-4 record. The next matchup has the Green Bay Packers taking on the Detroit Lions. I did predict that the Detroit would get the victory, and any other year, I guarantee the Packers would have ran all over Detroit, but unfortunately, with no outside weapons and very inconsistent play from Aaron Rodgers, the Packers are not themselves. They have now fallen to 3-6. The Lions are now sitting at 2-6. They're basically just a half a game behind the Packers. The Las Vegas Raiders took on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I thought that after last week's victory, the Raiders would be getting some momentum. They'd be able to get their ish together and finally start a winning streak. But unfortunately, that's going to have to wait for another week as they fell to Jacksonville. The Jaguars now are sitting at 3-6, while the Raiders are at the bottom of that AFC West division, sitting at 2-6. The Indianapolis Colts went into New England to take on the Patriots. I did predict that the Patriots would get the victory, and it was a one-sided show, to say the least. 26-3 was the final score. The Colts have now dropped to 3-5-1, while the Patriots are above 500 with a 5-4 record. The Buffalo Bills went into New York to take on the Jets. I did predict that the Bills would get the victory. Unfortunately, it was not meant to be, and now it's looking like Josh Allen might be out for Week 10. He has now suffered an injury. 20-17 is the final score. The Bills are now sitting at 6-2. No real need to panic as long as Allen can come back. They're sitting at first place in their division, while the Jets are now sitting in second place with a 6-3 record. The Washington Commanders were hosting the Minnesota Vikings in the matchup, and I predicted that the Vikings would get the victory. It was a lot closer than I thought. Final score 20-17. Kirk Cousins was finally able to beat his former team for the first time since leaving them for the Vikings. The Vikings are now improved to 7-1. Obviously, they're first in their NFC North division, while the Commanders fall to 4-5. The Seattle Seahawks went into Arizona, and I believe I picked the Seahawks to win, and they got a huge victory. They are now sitting in first place in their division with a 6-3 record, while the Cardinals have the opposite with a 3-6 record. Very inconsistent, to say the least, for the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, especially after last year. You think after last year making to the postseason, they'd want to try and get that back under, but there's no guarantees, I guess, year after year as to how well you're going to play. The Los Angeles Rams went into Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. I predicted the Buccaneers would get the victory. They got a big victory with a 16-13 win over the Rams. The Bucs are now sitting, as I said previously, tied for first with the Atlanta Falcons with a 4-5 record, while the Rams have now fallen to 3-5. On the Sunday night game, the Tennessee Titans went into Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. And both these teams are really good. Both these teams are sitting atop of their division. And I've said this in the past, I can see these two teams meeting in the playoffs unless one team gets upset. Final score 20-17. The Chiefs are sitting at 6-2, while the Titans are sitting at 5-3. And the Monday night game between the Baltimore Ravens and the New Orleans Saints, I did predict that Lamar would have a pretty good game. and get a victory for his team. And sure enough, he did. 27-13 was the final score. The Ravens have now improved to 6-3, while the Saints have now fallen to 3-6. Until next time, take care.